Welcome to Travel Secrets with me, Tanya Rose, the podcast sharing wisdom for fellow travellers. Each week, I ask my guests to reveal their 6 travel secrets and the trips and holidays that uncover them. My guest today is my lovely friend, the famous, legendary British broadcaster, Tania Bryer. How funny it is to have another Tanya opposite.
Tanya.
Tanya. Tanya is renowned for her scintillating interviews on CNBC Meets, from Bill Clinton to Dolly Parton to Lady Gaga, and she gets up and close and personal with them. She can be seen and found in Davos every January at the World Economic Forum, interviewing politicians and world leaders. She did her own travel show called Trailblazers, where she went to leading cities around the world and got under the skin of the destination with locals.
Yeah.
And if she's not busy enough doing all of that, she's also the chair of the National Event Committee for Cancer Research. Tanya and I have known each other since the 1990s when we were girls about town.
4 years old about town.
Absolutely. And when you were Good Morning Britain.
Yes,
and they nicknamed you Tracy Sunshine.
Yep.
And you are truly Tracy Sunshine. You're literally the nicest person I have ever met. Not a bad bone in your body. And I'm so delighted to call you my friend.
Oh, Tanya, thank you so much.
I'm so excited to hear your travel secrets. So before we get into them, perhaps you can tell us a little bit about how travel has shaped the person that you have become today.
Well, Tanya, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your couch, for up close and personal to talk about my life and travel. What's so interesting, when I was on my way over here and I was thinking, what do I talk about? I'm normally the one asking the questions. What do I actually answer and have to say? And I thought, you know what? Travel has shaped my life so much because my late father was from South Africa and my late mother was from Boston. So I grew up actually traveling a lot to South Africa and to America. So to the East Coast, to Boston, as I said, but also to the North Shore of Boston, to a place called Beverly Farms, which was a tiny little town about probably an hour north of Boston, where my late grandparents had a beautiful summer home. And every summer, myself, my sisters, my cousins would go there. And then every Christmas time, we'd go to South Africa to see all the relatives of my father. So I grew up very luckily, I'd say, knowing other cultures, other countries. I have to say with South Africa, it really made an impact on the rest of my life because when I grew up going there, they still had apartheid. And I couldn't understand. I'd say to my father, Dad, why is this happening? I don't understand why that bench has whites only. What does that mean? And I was so affected by it and so moved by what I was seeing and the injustice of it all. I couldn't understand it. And that shaped a lot of what I do today with interviewing different leaders, giving them platforms, certain initiatives that I work with. So growing up, going to a South Africa that was like that, I couldn't believe it. And then, of course, when Mandela came in and the country changed, thank God, I had seen it before through child's eyes and then seen it after. And I really understood the injustices of the world. And I never, ever wanted to live in a society that was not equal.
That's really interesting. And how do you feel South Africa is now? Do you still go back there?
We do. We go back to South Africa. We try and go back every Christmas. I still have an aunt and 2 aunts still alive and cousins there. My father has since passed. But when I go back to Cape Town and we're flying in and I see Table Mountain, and Lion's Head next to it, it's so emotional. I feel like I'm going back to see Dad. And I miss my father so much. I was so close to him. And even though I was brought up in London, born in London, brought up here, when I go to South Africa, I feel his soul. So it's very,
so it's like
very,
going home to you, even though you actually didn't grow up there.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Well, that leads us nicely into the first travel secret.
Yes.
What is a destination that you believe everybody should go to once in their lifetime?
So for me, Tanya, I think it's Paris. And I tell you why, whenever I go to Paris, whether I'm working or visiting friends or relatives there, it's so interesting. I always feel like I'm walking around in a living museum. I don't feel like I have to visit a museum because I'm just walking around these streets. They're so beautiful. The architecture is so stunning. And I know, of course, London is a beautiful city as well, but Paris to me is extraordinary. And I could walk around the streets for hours and hours, and it doesn't cost anything just to walk around. And of course, the Eiffel Tower, all these incredible buildings, monuments, statues. I just stand there and stare for hours. And I think it's such a beautiful city. So if you can go to Paris, and of course there are beautiful restaurants and shops and local markets, for me, it's probably one of the most beautiful cities
And
in
it's
the
so
world.
easy to get there on the Eurostar.
Yeah.
I don't think I have ever flown to Paris since the Eurostar came
Nor me.
into being, because
Yeah.
why would you? It's so
It's
easy.
so easy. And of
So
course,
easy.
they're hosting the Olympics in the
Yes.
summer.
Are you going to go?
I hope so. I hope so. I would love to go. I would absolutely love to go. I've been to Paris when they hosted the Rugby World Cup, and it comes alive with sporting events, any types of events. And just to know that's the home of the Mona Lisa, all these incredible cultural, historic, iconic pieces of art, I find that I come alive there in terms of culture.
There's the most wonderful tour operator and travel agency, which I will find out the name of, that does tours for children in Paris around the museums. And it is so sensational to take young kids to the Louvre and see the Mona Lisa, but in a way that's playful and fun.
Yes.
And I will definitely put that in the chat, because I
Yes.
think if you can take your young kids to Paris, I think it's a really great thing to do.
Absolutely. And to engage them
Yeah.
with all of those
art
incredible, with the art there.
Absolutely.
It's just magnificent. And as I say, I just walk around there, and every time I go, and I've been lucky enough to go a lot in my life so far, I'm just amazed. I'm absolutely amazed. And I just feel I'm walking within history and walking with this most beautiful surroundings.
Yes, there's an amazing brasserie on the Ile Saint Louis, you know, the little tiny thing, which is
Yes.
very near Notre Dame, called the Brasserie Ile Saint Louis. And it's just very simple French, but it's so affordable that anybody can go there. But it gets that real French experience. So I highly recommend that to anyone. Do you have any cafes that you go to?
Well, I was thinking about that, the Brasserie Lipp, which is probably a little bit touristy.
Yes, but it's still fabulous.
It's still fabulous. And you really feel like you're right in Paris. And there's a restaurant called L'Avenue, close to Avenue Foch, which is also fantastic. And there's a tea place. I have a sweet tooth. So whatever city I go to, I like to go and have tea somewhere. And they've got Angelina,
The
yes.
most delicious hot chocolate that you will ever have in your life.
It's incredible.
thick and so
Delicious. I always go there.
That's
if I
on the
can.
Rue de Rivoli.
Exactly.
Superb.
And
yeah.
the Rue de Rivoli, you're walking down there and seeing the Tuileries and everything. It's just beautiful. And where you go to the Ritz, I don't know if you stay there, but even to walk by the Ritz Hotel there is just exquisite.
Yeah, no, I love Paris. I lived there for 3.5 years and I still think it's the most beautiful city.
So
It
beautiful.
really is. So travel secret number 2, what is the most unexpected experience that you've ever had, good or bad?
It's an interesting one. Again, I was thinking about this. Is it cultural? Was it a moment? I think unexpected experience. And I knew it was going to be sensational, but I couldn't really think how is Jordan. I have to say, when I went to Petra, and I knew that, of course, it was going to be stunning, but I couldn't have imagined how incredible it was and how it moved me to see Petra and think, oh my goodness, this is not only, they say, one of the wonders of the world, but just the experience of it, Tanya, was just extraordinary. And going down, I remember going down on, I think you could go on donkeys or
horses, yeah.
and the horses, and you suddenly, and then you come through and you see the monastery. It was one of the most incredible travel moments, I think, of my life.
I've never done that, and it is definitely something that people say take their breath away. I'm not sure at the moment if it's probably the right time to go because of what's going on in the Middle East, but I think if you can, if things settle down, Jordan is such a beautiful country.
It's a beautiful country, and one of my oldest friends who I went to Georgetown University in America with lives in Jordan. And she got married in Jordan. So again, it feels I have that special bond. And it's the most beautiful country. It has wonderful, wonderful monuments, wonderful sites to visit. Aqaba and Petra is something really, as I said, it just, I couldn't have imagined how I would feel. It was unexpected.
Watching your Trailblazers TV show, which I have done avidly.
Oh, good. I got a viewer. Thank goodness.
You have.
I got
you have many,
viewer.
many. You met Lang Lang, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And didn't you go to
Beijing?
Bejing
Yes.
with him? That must have been very unexpected as well.
It was incredible, Tanya. So Lang Lang is the most charismatic artist. He's obviously one of the most talented pianists of our generation. He's also so lovely, so down to earth, and so charismatic. So for Trailblazers, I asked Lang Lang if he would show me his Beijing, and he did. And we went behind the walls, almost into the Imperial City, but we did manage to get into the old Beijing, and it was just stunning. And to have Lang Lang show me, it was such a privilege. And one of the restaurants that he recommended, which I dream about, is Da Dong. And it's the best Peking duck that I've ever tasted in my life. So it's Da Dong, and it's just extraordinary, right in the heart of Beijing. And he took me to the concert hall where he plays, and just walking around again, the old Beijing was just extraordinary.
With somebody.
With Lang Lang. Yeah. And it was just wonderful. But I'd highly recommend, if you do go to Beijing and you like Peking duck, Da Dong is the place.
And he's so everywhere at the moment with this wonderful new series on the television.
Yes.
It's fantastic.
It's fantastic
isn't it?
with Mika.
Yes, Mika.
And Claudia presents
yes,
it.
Exactly.
And you see Lang Lang's personality, and he has a foundation for young artists that he helps as well. And he's just the most incredible character. And he grew up just having to practice, you can imagine, hours and hours and hours, but has this talent, but also to communicate with people beyond music as well.
Yeah, that's lovely. And that he's giving back now with his foundation and everything.
Yes. I felt so lucky to go around Beijing with him. I'd never been before, and I was literally just, this is incredible.
Blown away.
Blown away by it.
So that's your unexpected.
Yes.
What is your most overrated travel experience?
So as you know me, Tanya, I'm a very positive person. And I was thinking, where did I go that I didn't really like, or it didn't live up to my expectation? And I can't think of any one particular place. I think because when I travel, I always look at the positive. I always think, well, okay, so I didn't like that, but is there something else that I could like? So there isn't really a place in the world that I've thought, because I love traveling and I feel travel is an education. And my late mother always said that to me, Tanya, travel as much as you can. You learn so much. So wherever I go in the world, even if I feel actually I don't particularly like the hotel I'm staying in, I feel, okay, so what can I learn from the culture?
Yeah. And I think that's such a wonderful, positive way to look at everything, because you learn something wherever you go in your life, don't you?
Yes.
And you have been to so many amazing places. This is actually nothing to do with overrated. This is almost like an unexpected or something. When you interviewed Dolly Parton, I just hope to God that you're going to say to me, this wasn't an overrated thing, because my dream, honestly, my dream is, I love country and Western music. I want to go to Nashville, but I also want to go to Dollywood. Did you go to Dollywood with Dolly?
I went to Dollywood with Dolly. Oh, it was extraordinary, Tanya.
I'm so happy to hear it's not overrated.
It is not overrated at all, and nor is Dolly. She's one of the most incredible women that I've had the honor of interviewing, meeting. She is incredible. Her story, Tanya, is extraordinary. She came from nothing. She shared a room with her 12 siblings. Her mother, the coat of many colours.
Yes, which makes me cry every time I hear it.
She did. She sewed that coat for her. She literally did everything herself. And she told me a story, and I was so impressed. She wrote, "I Will Always Love You." And Elvis Presley at the time, his Colonel Parker, went to Dolly and said, "Dolly, love the song." She wasn't known at the time. "I want Elvis to sing it." Okay, that's amazing. Of course, Elvis Presley, of course he can sing it. Colonel Parker said, however, you're going to have to hand over ownership. And she said, no. And she wasn't known. And then look what happened to the song.
Absolutely.
I mean, she took risks. She was brave. She's self-deprecating. She is extraordinary. And Dollywood is just fabulous. And Tennessee is beautiful. There was quite a funny story, though. When we finished the filming with Dolly, and it was just wonderful, and she was so generous and so hospitable, and I just wanted to go back to Dollywood and just spend more time with her. She also has a foundation where she has books for people.
For illiterate people.
Yeah. And she's done this for many, many years, and it's incredible. And she gives back through that so much. And after the filming and after we were done, my producer at the time, a lovely guy called Will, and we said, right, we're finished. We're on our way back to London. We've got time. And I happen to love pancakes and all those wonderful American breakfasts. I love those. I think probably because of my mum, I love American food like that. So we went to a breakfast place and I said, look, I'd love pancakes, but there's always big portions. Do you think I could just have a small portion? And
one pancake.
Just one pancake.
Not 10.
And the lovely waitress said, yes, of course. Can you show me your card? And I said, well, what card? She said, your gastro card. So if you had to prove that you'd had a gastro operation if you wanted a smaller portion.
That's hilarious.
And literally, and I said, look, I'm so sorry. Actually, I haven't
yet had
in
one.
my British polite accent. I'm so sorry, but I haven't had one. But would it be all right if I could get the children's portion?
Oh, that's hilarious. Now you probably have to show an Ozempic card.
I know. But she was just so sweet and so lovely. And they just had this rule that you had to eat a certain portion unless
you had a gastric band. That is absolutely brilliant. I love that.
The pancakes were delicious, by the way. I just had a small
That's so funny, marvellous. That's brilliant. And I'm so pleased to hear that Dolly is as wonderful as I have always thought she would be.
As wonderful and more. And one of the brightest, most giving, just a legend.
Yeah,
a
legend.
Real living legend.
That takes us nicely into travel secret number 4, which is food and drink. We all love food. We all love drinks. Is there somewhere you've been in the world where you've had the most amazing meal or cocktail or a restaurant that you go back to time and time again?
So I had an experience, Tanya, that was truly extraordinary related to a restaurant. One of the Trailblazer episodes I filmed was with Nobu.
Oh, amazing.
And we went to Tokyo and Nobu showed me his Tokyo. And of course, we ended up at Nobu Tokyo. And there I was sitting down with him, Nobu himself, making the sushi for me. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And we had to do it a few times for the takes, for the filming. So he kept going. So for about 20 minutes, I had the Nobu, and Nobu Tokyo is a wonderful restaurant anyway, making the sushi, showing me what to do, how he did the rice with his special knife. I was just sat there and it was so...
Private audience of sushi making with Nobu.
I was so lucky. And it was so delicious.
I was going to say, was it delicious?
It was so good. And I had to keep eating more and more because we had to keep redoing. So I kept saying to my producer, can we do it again? He's one of the nicest men. Another extraordinary story of how he achieved his success. And he's still so humble and so wonderful. And I could just see his love and passion for what he was doing and what he was making has just not diminished one iota.
But he's also an amazing businessman
with
his franchising, and he's done partnerships with Robert De Niro and globally in all hotels all over the world. It's amazing what
he started very small. And he overcame a huge challenge. He went to Peru because his late father had a connection there. And that's where he learnt that cuisine and how he incorporated it with the Japanese style that he makes. And then he ended up in Alaska and his restaurant burnt down. Really? And he said it was the most horrendous time in his life. But his wife got him through. And then, of course, he started with Machu Teacher in LA, and it went from there.
How
so he never
amazing.
gave up, and he's achieved this worldwide success. And the man behind the brand and behind Nobu is incredible.
And actually, talking about LA, because obviously that restaurant
where he
there is
started,
where he
yeah.
started. When you also did Trailblazers with Gwyneth Paltrow in LA, didn't you?
I did.
And didn't she take you to a wonderful restaurant?
So she recommended, I went to her HQ of Goop and I sat with her, and she's just as beautiful and intelligent and very business savvy. Just a wonderful conversation with her. And she recommended Giorgio Baldi. So I went to Giorgio Baldi, and that was her recommendation, and it was absolutely delicious. And then, of course, I realized that everyone from the Kardashians to Hailey Bieber, they all go there. And it's a wonderful, intimate Italian restaurant, delicious food, but it's got Hollywood royalty coming in.
I've never
and out.
been there. I actually haven't
have
heard
to
of it
go.
except for, on your thing. So
Now you know, you're gonna have to
now
go.
I do. I now have a new travel secret in LA. Absolutely. And I love LA. I absolutely love going
What
there.
about the Pink Palace, the Beverly Hills Hotel? I love it. And of course, everyone loves the Polo Lounge and everyone loves going to eat there, and it's fantastic. What I love is when you go downstairs, there's the diner. Oh, and I have breakfast there. And again, I think you must think that I'm a bit of a piggy, but I dream about the pancakes and what they make. It is so delicious.
Do you know I have never been to the diner at the Beverly Hills Hotel?
Oh, Tanya, it's amazing.
I've only ever been to the Polo
And
Lounge.
the cakes they have and everything. It's not as healthy as what you'll find or that you can find, but it is so delicious. It is so good. And when my kids were young, I've got 2 daughters and I've also got 2 stepdaughters and a stepson. So the Brady Bunch, we went on one of our first holidays. We went to Disney World in Florida, in Orlando, and then we went to LA, stayed at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and all of us were just sitting in this diner, Rod and I, my husband, and the 5 kids, all in a row. We couldn't speak. It was so good.
So
Just
good.
The pancakes. It was delicious.
I love the Beverly Hills Hotel, but I also love the Bel-Air Hotel. Now, I haven't been since it's changed hands, but we actually worked with them for 15 years. And I used to adore walking over that bridge with the swans.
It's beautiful.
And then you smell the apple wood burning in all of the rooms.
It's a gorgeous hotel.
And I remember staying there when Al Pacino was staying there in the room next to me. It was hilarious. I stood up in the morning, looked at the bougainvillea, and there was a hummingbird. I was looking at this hummingbird, and suddenly I looked over the wall, and there was Al in his dressing gown. And I just went, morning. And I thought, he's not going to believe that I'm looking at the hummingbird. He's going to think I'm looking over the wall to find him. But he just went, morning. It was
I'm sure
so
he was
funny.
very happy when he saw
Oh,
you,
it's
Tanya.
so funny. And I also remember JFK Jr. and Cindy Crawford staying at the same time.
Yes.
And I had just got into the gym when they came in, and I thought, there is no way I'm working out next to these 2. So I said, I've had such a heavy workout. I have to leave now.
I've got to go.
Got to go.
Leave it to you
Got to
guys.
go.
Now do your hour. It is beautiful. It's so elegant. Funnily enough, I stood on that very same bridge when I went to film with Gwyneth for the Trailblazers. We went to film at the Bel-Air to do what we say piece to cameras. So I'm like, here I am at the Bel-Air in LA, and I've come to film with on that bridge. And it's got such a history to it, that hotel. They've all stayed there.
Yeah, Marilyn Monroe lived there. And yeah, it's
Incredible,
amazing.
incredible history.
amazing.
Beautiful place.
So travel secret number 5. What is your best insider travel secret?
So I think for me, because I travel a lot for work, and I went to Perth for 3 days once to film, to Singapore to host a conference there for a day or 2, so it's going to places that are far away and thinking, okay, how am I going to acclimatize? What am I going to do? How can I keep my energy? So for me, I just try and always keep my watch, the clock, on the local time. So I'm not thinking, oh my goodness, I'm 8 hours behind. I've just flown from London. So jet lag is something that I try and overcome. If I really can't do it, I will get a melatonin or something that might help me to sleep, because you could be sort of awake at 4 or 5 in the morning in the place that you're traveling to. So I think the biggest tip I can give for long distance travel, don't look at where you've come from, just look at where you are. and where
And is
you're
that
going.
when you're just doing short time?
Exactly,
Yeah.
short time. When you're going for a longer time, of course, you want to acclimatize. But I've traveled long distances for very, very short times. So by the time I've got there, I've got a day. I'm in Perth. We literally flew for 2 days
Gosh,
and
that's
back.
amazing. What were you filming in Perth?
I was filming with Elle McPherson, and it was for one of my trailblazers.
Lovely.
And she showed me her Perth, and it was just wonderful. It was beautiful. But we could only go for a couple of days.
Wow, that's a long way to
so
go.
it was a long way. So we just thought, Martin, my producer, and I were like, okay, we're going to Australia, but we're going to do it in segments. And when we get there, we're not going to think, oh my goodness, we've just traveled around the world. We're going to think, okay, what time is it here?
Yes.
And just go along with it. And it was wonderful. And
That's good.
Elle took us to her favourite beach, and it was lovely.
Lovely. Actually, Anya Heinmarch, who was on this podcast, gave us a good tip for long haul travel. She said somebody told her to set the alarm at 2:00 in the morning
Okay.
and take half a sleeping pill.
Okay,
Because
yes.
that then gets you through to like 8:00 of the local time, and then you don't wake up too groggy. And
Yes.
so I usually take a melatonin, but actually I'm going to try a temazepam or something like that if I'm doing a.
If Anya says, then
Anya
yes,
does
exactly.
in one of her wonderful
We're not
pouches
gonna
as
argue
well.
with her,
Absolutely,
exactly.
she knows, doesn't she? What do you think is a memory from a holiday or a trip that is most poignant to you now?
I think it's got to be Cape Town, Tanya. I mean, we do go every Christmas, as I say, if we can. And it's the most beautiful city. I mean, it really is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. And it's poignant because of my parents. We go to a hotel called the Mount Nelson, and it's a beautiful hotel. It's pink and it's very old style. It's got beautiful gardens, and they have a famous tea there. Everyone goes to the Mount Nelson for tea.
Yeah.
And my mother and father loved it. And they took myself and my two sisters, Lisa and Leslie, from when we were that age. And it's just absolutely gorgeous. And every time I go there still with my girls and my family now, I just think of everything that I did with my mum and my father. And the hotel are so wonderful that my mother, they called the Queen of the Mount Nelson, because my mother was a force of nature, very strong character. And they've put a portrait of her up
Wonderful.
in one of the corridors. And so when you go to some particular rooms, if you're staying there, and we always stay in the same rooms when we go there, there's a big portrait of my late mother.
Oh, how wonderful.
Joy. She was called Joy. It's so lovely. And they planted a tree, a beautiful tree with pink flowers, also in her name. And it said Joy Bryer, an inspiration to all. So
That's amazing.
it's a very, very special place.
I think South Africa is an amazing place. When I went the first time, I think it was about 10 or 15 years ago, and I did the garden route very quickly, like in 2 or 3 days. But I
Beautiful.
did Cape Town, then I went to Hermanus.
Yeah, also gorgeous. Yeah,
to a lovely
beaches.
hotel called Birkenhead House, which is
Yes.
absolutely beautiful.
I've stayed there. It's
really,
stunning.
and you see the whales,
Yeah.
absolutely gorgeous. I went to Franschhoek,
Also
and I
beautiful.
stayed in one of the best hotels I've ever stayed in my life, called the Residence.
Oh.
It's superb. I think it's got 14 bedrooms, and it's owned
stayed
by a
there.
lady called Liz Biden. And she also owns Birkenhead House, actually. And then I drove up to the last bit on the garden route.
To
What's that?
Durban?
No, not to Durban.
No, it's where the oysters come from, Neisner.
Yes, I went to Neisner.
Neisner.
And actually, I came back and I said to my husband, I want to build a house in Neisner. And he said, what are you talking about? You went to sign the hotels up, not to come back and buy us a house. But I just thought it was amazing.
It's stunning.
So
It's
beautiful.
beautiful. The garden route is something that if you can do, it's something wonderful to do.
Just
Really
beautiful.
is
And then we look
beautiful.
after a wonderful hotel in Cape Town called the Saxon,
yes,
which is
I
a
know the
really,
Saxon.
really beautiful hotel.
Well, not to do the Saxon any disservice, the Mount Nelson just has that connection for us, the family. We've been going there for so many years.
wonderful.
And we walk in and we know everyone, and everyone comes out and says hello to us. And it's just like coming home.
And you've got a tree and a portrait of your
Tree and a
mother.
portrait of
That's
my
so
mum.
wonderful.
And then we do a tea, the Bryer tea, every year. And all my late father's relatives come to this tea, and about 30 of them. And it's just beautiful.
Do
Tanya.
your children love it as well?
They love it. And it happens that Tashi, my elder daughter, it's her birthday, December 19th. So we celebrate her birthday
Amazing.
there, and then all the relatives coming in, and it's so special to have that. Family means everything to me, and that place is just incredible.
Well, that takes us nicely onto our last travel secret, which is I asked you to bring a photograph which meant something to you and sort of sums up travel. So can you show us your photograph and just tell us about that photograph?
So the photograph is myself and my family in Cape Town, and that probably resonates the most with me in terms of a holiday, in terms of a place that fills my soul. And whenever I go there, I feel whole again. And whatever's happening with myself or in the world, I feel when I go and I walk next to Lion's Head or I look at the 12 Apostles, I just feel this is where my soul is at home.
Tanya, it's been such a joy and delight to see you and for you to share your travel secrets. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Tanya. It's been so lovely to talk to you.